This date. Not excited.
All right, now the whole world knows.
Oh no, I got it in there before they said recording.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Development Committee. 1 p.m. on October 27, 2021. Approval of the agenda, recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee meeting agenda for October 27 be approved as circulated. Carried. Adoption of minutes, approval of minutes, recommendation that the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee meeting held on October 13, 2021 be adopted. Deb, all in favor? Carried. Development Services update, Scott.
Okay, so here we have the current applications. We added one new one bottom. We talked about that a little bit at the last meeting, and that's on the agenda for this meeting. We did have another one on the agenda today, but we decided not to put it on. That's the 21-200 DP. That one could wait a week. Yeah, any questions?
Any comments or questions?
No.
Okay, whoa. Flying right through this. New business, development variance 1705 Hiller Road 21-31 DBP. That the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the District of Sicamous authorize and issue development variance permit number 21-316-DBP for the property legally described as Lot A, Section 6, Township 22, Range 7, Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan. DPP 98605, located at Hiller Road East, to vary the District of Sicamous zoning bylaw number 101. 1993, section 603(3) and B and section 603(4)(a)(8). Setbacks for accessory residential buildings. Scott would, or Sarah or Steffi, who's calling?
Yeah, that'll be mine. Thank you, Chair.
That's yours.
So this is an application for development variance permit. I think councils or the committee's familiar with the property. Back in April, a couple permits were issued, a development permit and development variance permit for some of the setbacks and reducing the required buffering. Looks a little different today. The roads are pretty much in. There's still no hydro service and the roads haven't been paved. We did issue one building permit on the condition that it can't be occupied until the hydro is installed. We have building permits for about 5 or 6 more units to go on the property. And the issue has become that the units people want to put on are bigger than what was anticipated when the original development permit and development variance permits were issued. But yeah, it's zoned R4, which is mobile home residential, or sorry, yeah, that's zoning. Here are the setbacks. So they want to reduce the setbacks from all property lines from 6 meters to 4 meters. We did talk about going closer in some of them, but we thought 4 meters should be sufficient. And really, it's along Hillier Road is the one we're most concerned about with the setback, just with snow clearing, whatever operations has to do on that boulevard, but also just keeping it attractive. So here you can see the drawing showing the setbacks from Hillier Road, 6 meters, 4 meters, and that's all the external property lines. And then you can see the setbacks for accessory residential buildings. So that'd be like a shed. So again, we asked them to maintain 4 meters from the front property line, but then they could go down to 1.5 meters from the sides and the rear property lines, and that'd be for sheds. So for properties that property line you share with a neighbor, essentially. We're not talking about the internal mobile home space property lines. We're talking about the parent parcel property lines. We set this out for referrals to the, we just referred it internally. No objections or concerns from building inspection, bylaw enforcement, or engineering. The fire department did have some concerns, just reducing the setbacks. We saw this when we reduced some of the setbacks previously. And the fire department has maintained this when they've considered other ones. When you start getting, it's already quite dense with in mobile home parks, and then you start adding sheds and reducing the setbacks, it just becomes more and more dense. Already we've seen, on the one building permit we've issued, they came in and they wanted to build decks on the property that again would expand the footprint of the building and create some issues. So the fire department had some issues with it. I thought it was interesting where in the last paragraph where the fire department points out, like, what about the initial planning? Like, why are we revisiting this now? At the beginning, we had those building footprints established, and now they want to change those. So some good comments from the fire department. In the setbacks from the property lines using 6 meters, 4 meters. I don't think it's a big issue. Some of the internal ones, could pose some issues, but again, staff is recommending that this permit be issued.
Any comments? Go ahead, Deb.
These are all brand new mobile homes coming in, right? So, at least in terms of the fire part on that, they're not like the old of the old ones. So I'm not surprised Brent made the comment, though. I was surprised when we got it that we didn't see a comment from him, but yeah.
Gord, you're next then, Brian.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I support this proposal. Staff supports it, but maybe in the future we think about when somebody does a development like this, maybe they have to, instead of using vinyl siding, they might have to go to hardy plank or some non-combustible stuff for tighter areas. So it's something to think about. But I know I support this project because it's really housing we really need. And I talked to Greg, and he's got, I think he already have 6 permits or something like that, or people want to build. And I know those when he has quite a few more already lined up, and he's looking forward to starting his next development or phase beyond this. So that's good for housing. Thanks.
But Brian.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We need as much housing as we can. And if this helps them get it through, then it's great.
My only comment is that I think that the staff, myself, Gord, not sure who was all there. We discussed this basically on site 3 months ago, didn't we? Basically.
I think 6 months ago.
I was trying to be nice, okay? Wear the pink shirt. Okay, so
That was a second.
I'm going to.
Sorry, just one other question. Like I mentioned this last night because I heard that there was extra wide utility right of ways and such. So these setbacks, we're not looking at trying to incorporate any aspect of this into our new mobile home park zone, are we? Like with the rezoning? Because I noticed they're still at the 6 meters.
So these would be a variance, and yeah, in the future, as we go forward, the variance travels with the property.
Yeah, no, I get that part. It's just, we're not thinking that this is something we actually endorse in terms of the new zone.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Through the chair. So in terms of what's in the official community plan about mobile home parks, there is strong language around making sure that everything fronting a street is well screened with landscape screening. So this type of variance, to change that in the zoning bylaw, we would potentially have to change the OCP.
Okay.
And if I remember when we were on site, the idea was that we were matching up to what had already been built. So we were just continuing with it. So he must have had a variance for the
The previous ones?
previous one.
I'd have to look at the file again.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just suggesting that was one of the basic comments, that it was just lining up with existing, the one that they're backing onto, which is its own separate strata now. So are there any more comments? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. All right. C5B Main Street. I asked for this to come back here just so that the planning committee could get an update, and I'd like Mr. Parliament to speak.
Reaching for my keys. Sorry.
I would like Mr. Parliament to speak to this.
I certainly don't want to add anything more than what Scott will talk about, but I will say that the office has received a lot of feedback from the public, including the Chamber of Commerce. I've had a chance to sit down and understand more what happened in the last planning development committee, where there was a vote to move this forward to council that was defeated. And that council this afternoon has a staff report on the development permit on 530.
Yeah.
What we have done and listening to the public is I'm recommending this afternoon to council, supported by staff, that we direct the planning committee to visit the proponent on site at a schedule that meets everyone's agenda. And let's have a second look at this development permit with all the questions outstanding. They need to be addressed. I understand that there's a lot of questions on traffic and queuing, parking. And as long as they're DP related, I think it's probably prudent for both the planning committee and council to take a second look at this development permit and meet the proponent on site. And so that's what I will be supporting this afternoon. I think it's important that we do listen to the community and have a second look at this. I do believe the planning committee, and I know council understand the difference between a permitted use in the zoning bylaw and a development permit. And as long as the discussion is centered around the development permit, planning committee, and then the planning committee can make a recommendation or a suggestion to council, and we will deal with that either 2 weeks from today or whatever the time is necessary. Okay, I've talked to staff, we support that. I've talked to Jen, the corporate officer, and that's what will be coming to council this afternoon. So that's basically my recommendation, and I look forward to Scott's report.
Scott, please.
Okay. So I just thought we'd just revisit it, and if there's any questions, I can answer them as we go. Everybody's pretty familiar with the property, so there's an existing building on site at 534. This development permit is really only considering 530 Main Street at this time, and 534 would come back when you're considering the form and character of the building, because nothing really on the building is going to change. In the official community plan, so it falls in the Gateway Town Center development permit area. And that Gateway Town Center development permit area considers essentially landscaping, outdoor seating and artwork, and sidewalks. And then the zoning is C1. Permitted uses are retail sales, food and beverage service, and service and repair. So that would include all the uses. So all the uses are permitted. So what the development permit would consider is just that: landscaping, outdoor seating, artwork, and sidewalks. We have the site plan. So they've established some parameters for the garbage enclosure. The gas bar canopy would be, your typical branded gas bar canopy. And then you can see this is an updated plan. I believe the committee did see this, where they've created that raised island coming in, and then traffic would be directed around the property. Here you can see, so there's that raised island, and then traffic is directed to go counterclockwise around the property, and then exiting out the entrance, next to the entrance, I guess. And they've added some sidewalks and crosswalks and things to improve pedestrian movements on the property. They're proposing the, a lot of landscaping and then they're looking at providing some features, a fountain. Here's something that the committee asked for last time, and this is the turning radiuses for the different types of vehicles. So you can see the different size of campers and trailers. Then you see the Super B fuel truck. That one is the one that, the pathway comes and it crosses that median in order to get in. But it looks like all the rest of the vehicles, including the 40-foot bus, would be able to make that turning radius. This was provided by the consultant for one of the consultants for the proponent. So here's the landscaping. You can see the work that's being done on the boulevard. So this would require a servicing agreement for any work that's done on the district property. You can see the property line where it is. So they're proposing some trees and grass in that area. So with the landscaping, we'd require that security deposit, but we'd also require a servicing agreement. And that's through operations, just saying they can do the work. This is the standard the work's going to be completed to. We've also added into that in one of the conditions of the development permit, and it would be in that servicing agreement would address the traffic study. And if anything extra is required, so in the future, if there needs to be more treatment on district property, then the proponent would be responsible for that work to improve traffic. So right now, that agreement kind of ends when the servicing for the boulevard and the landscaping, once, I think it's 2 years, once it's growing, it's healthy, we'd extend that for 5 years where, they'd have to keep an eye on the traffic and if traffic improvements. So that'd be a servicing agreement that they enter into willingly, kind of outside of our typical process, but the proponent has agreed that they would accept that as a condition of the permit. And then the traffic study, again, it's, I've had a conversation with the traffic engineer. The traffic engineer's been willing to meet with council. I believe they're gonna plan to attend the meeting tonight. Some of the questions have been about the traffic counts and how and when the traffic counts were done. So in 2007 is the last time the most local MOT stations, the data was collected at those most local MOTI stations. So that's where the 2007 data comes in. And then they did traffic count in September of 2021 on the roundabout. One question I've heard is, well, why are they using 2007 data? And the other one is, why aren't they doing it on July long weekend? And the 2007 data is the data that's available from MOTI, and they have doubled it. So they've increased it by 100% when they've done their calculations. And the other question, why didn't they choose the busiest summer day and collect the traffic? And they say you don't actually want to do that. You want to collect it at like a normal day, and then you model it from there. So that's kind of the thinking behind the traffic study. They did say it would have very good service, even with at peak times, which is ideal. Well, excellent service is the best, but very good service is the second best. They do have room for 6 vehicles to queue coming out of the roundabout. And they don't expect there should be any more than 6 vehicles queued. That's traffic report stamped by an engineer. I can't really speak to traffic much. I'm not a traffic expert, rely on that professional. And then just going to the development permits conditions. So we have the outdoor lighting, garbage recycling, the outdoor amenity area, proposed artwork. And the next conditions, boulevard and landscaping, and that the trees and things will be in for 2 years, and then they provide 100% of the value as a security deposit to make sure that they're maintained. And then the last bit on the DP, the conditions are the issues from the traffic. So everything will be developed in accordance with the traffic study. They'll put a stop sign up. There's a tree that when you come out immediately, you look to the right towards the high school, there's a tree that's right on the boulevard. They've recommended something happen with that to either remove it or prune it or make it so it doesn't interfere with the sight line, so that'll be a condition. And then going back to the servicing agreement, typically mainly speaks to the boulevard improvements and things like that. But then if an addendum is required to the traffic, if there are issues, then that would be part of that servicing agreement as well. Yeah, like Evan said, at the meeting today, we brought this to Planning and Development Committee when it was a hung jury. So that means it's defeated. So we'll present that information to council today with an option for staff or for council to consider referring it back to the Planning and Development Committee, where the Planning and Development Committee can meet on site with the proponent and talk about the issues right there on site. We can probably get possibly the owner, Sweet Pal. We can probably the lead consultant, Mark, would be available. I don't know about the traffic engineer, but yeah, we can arrange that.
Thank you. Any comments? Gordon?
Well, we got lots of time.
We got lots of time.
I just, yeah, this is a tough one, I'm really pro-development and I mean, I recall going back to the last development permit, or two prior development permits before, when there was a McDonald's and a Tim Hortons, and that was at the senior center. And, at that time, there was everybody was for it, everybody liked to see some franchises, but, kind of things have changed. And, I think we do have a good culture of restaurants. People drive here to go to Moose Mulligan's from Salmon Arm, in the summer or winter. And now we got the smokehouse on Main Street, and we know, we got a few things happening. We have the one over in the mall. It's a different type of restaurant. It's really good food. And just, being a town center, I just feel that, the fast food should stay on the highway, and that's just the way I feel. But there's just lots of things that kind of tweak me about this, and that is the proposal of a development permit all at once, which sounds great. But when they start scaling back and doing a DP for one property to put in fuel pumps, but they're not using the other property, so how is money gonna change hands? It's just gonna be, is it just going to be a card lock because they don't have a building to operate out of on that property? So they're going to operate it. So shouldn't the lots be consolidated right off the hop, before we get into it? That's kind of one concern I had. And just the traffic volumes, it's just, I don't know, the proposal for the future development of a hotel, maybe, it's kind of, pie in the sky, but it should be included in the traffic study. So I had a few things, the contaminated site one I was a little concerned about, because didn't we already go through that with Mitch, and we already did a contaminated site study on that property, and it all passed with flying colors, and I thought it was kind of flagged or already removed from the province, but I don't know, maybe that's why they're not dividing them both.
But I can speak to some of those.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so through the chair, so the phasing is that issue is the contaminated site. So council can't issue a development permit unless a property's gone through that contaminated site process, because there are fuel tanks on that property at one time. Then it's been flagged. I think the previous approval was you can do this business and continue this business as it is, or and that was approved by the province. But now with this particular one, they're kind of starting again, right? So they could get a letter like the previous one saying, hey, you can do this, you can continue as it is, or the letter could say, hey, you need to do another in-depth study, or it could be all clear forevermore, go forward with it. So, and that is the issue. They want to open that store. They want to provide that retail. They want to have a convenience store, but a permit can't be issued till that's done. The reason they've decided to go forward like it is because they want to start moving dirt on the property. They want to start installing those tanks. They're storing the tanks somewhere else right now. They want to get started before winter to start creating the services and things that are required for that property, in anticipation that as soon as they get the green light, they can then present the form and character of that building to council and move forward with it. So consolidating the properties would be a good idea. However, if they were consolidated, the whole property would be frozen in that contaminated site thing. The council couldn't issue any permits. But I think that's the main issue is they want to move forward. They want to get started. And definitely they want to have that building ready to go when the gas is ready to be pumped.
So anybody else?
Yeah. And I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just want to say, I'm pro-business myself. I just see that we have an opportunity to sort of foster independent businesses and the mom and pop kind of stores and restaurants and things in the town. And I think it's a really good opportunity. The staff is, says that it's, sort of not that easy. And if that's the case, that's the case. I just think it's a really good, something that, I think is a really good idea. And the whole traffic thing, I've already talked about that in the last meeting, and I don't need to do that, but the type of project that it is, I don't agree with it, but ultimately.
All right, thanks, Brian. So it is a permitted use by the zoning bylaws. That's it. Our only concern is the access into our community. Like if they want to go in that business, that's fine. But my concern is our access into the community of Sicamous, getting into downtown Main Street. So, and I know that if you got to wait 5 minutes to make it through the roundabout, turn on the Main Street, which is soon to be, unless some serious things happen in the next 6 months, that 97 and that entrance is basically our main way to get into our community because MOTI is restricting flow through the other accesses. So that's always been my concern. This is that stacking on Main Street out into the traffic circle. And people that might have considered coming into town do the drive-by, and it's a lost visit to the community. With the things that are coming up in the future, like right now, let's just be honest, right? If you come into our community and drive down Main Street, you're probably going to keep going anyway. But in the not too distant future, with some things that are coming forward, that landscape of Main Street could change. And so to have it that people can't get into the community is not what that doesn't help what's going to happen further down Main Street. That's my only concern. And then my other comment is that at one time, maybe not in the last meeting, but in the meeting before, I think even they came to the Planning Development Committee, there was a discussion about right in, right out only. I don't know why they have right in, right out, left in. That will seriously, I think, cause some traffic issues. So these are the things where we'd like to sit down and have a conversation with them about, like, as far as them having what they want, McDonald's, A&W, 7-Eleven, whatever business they have to go on their service station, it's zoned for it. And we have to be cognizant that it's zoned for it. But we also have to listen to the community. So, Gordon?
Yeah, like you say, I really think this is a great idea for us to just have a one-on-one with them. And like I say, we don't want to scare them away or anything like that. We want business, but we want it to be right. And, and maybe, one of the things we talked about in our upcoming zoning bylaws is we're talking about this zone not having drive-throughs. And so we're going to approve this. And then 3 months from now, we're not going to approve anymore. So that's a little, I'm not sure of that. But the other thing too is that if you want to use a good example of a situation that can happen is similar to what happened in Revelstoke. They put in the Petrocan and the Starbucks and the McDonald's and the A&W, and you could go left in, right out, you could do all kinds of things. Well, it just didn't work. Once they filled that up with six or seven businesses, it didn't work anymore. So they now put a divider in front there. Everybody has to go into town and they had to put a traffic circle. So that would mean we would be putting a traffic circle on Shuswap. Because they're gonna probably park at the school or do a U-turn at the school. Or, it's just gonna become a nightmare. And then maybe, and I did talk to one of the previous counselors that was involved in that, in the public hearing for the McDonald's that was supposed to go on this property. And he was saying that there was, one of the things was a service road, but now that the traffic circle's in, I don't know if there's enough room for a service road. This property did have two entrances into it before the roundabout came, and on either end of the building. But that road that goes through the school, is that the school's property or is that a public road?
It's on the school's parcel through the chair.
Go ahead, sorry.
Through the chair. It's on the school's parcel. It's part of their property. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just trying to figure out where they're gonna find the room for a service road. Thanks, Sarah. So anyways, those are just some of my concerns and I look forward to really, making this work somehow.
All right, I don't want to kick this horse down the street too much further, so if there's no more comments, we'll close this one out and we'll move on to 5C with the district zoning bylaw number 1020. We've reviewed this and there's been some comments made. So Deb, would you like to start with one of the ones that you were suggesting about the C3?
C3? Yeah, so I guess just looking at it from a perspective of the official community plan, one of the things that was kind of first and foremost that was quite different from what we used to have was this whole idea of the east side of Riverside Avenue being the C3 or what is it, marine commercial marine. And it seems like we've gone through a few iterations here with some changes to some of the specific properties. And the one with that's become general industrial, I guess, concerns me a lot because I don't think we want industrial in that part of town. But the other thing was just notionally, I look at it and you see some R1 residential, you see some of the C3, you see the general industrial, there's one multi-residential there. We've got a lot of old existing houses there, which down the road, maybe they become an office, maybe they become, like employee residence or, whatever. But it seems like we're leaving a lot of that historic zoning in place, even though it's not consistent with the official community plan and it's not where we ultimately want to go. And I think we're really close by making just small modification to the C3. We can kind of accommodate those existing uses while still kind of, this is where we're going forward.
Through the chair.
Just go ahead, sir.
Just in response to that. So part of that separation between the industrial, which is a light industrial, we actually got rid of the general, which had all of the much heavier uses.
Okay, the one online said general.
And it will now because we've changed, we only have one industrial zone.
Yeah.
And we just made it general industrial instead of just calling it light. And it's just a change in name only. So part of that was trying to help with what I had understood, and I may be wrong, was a desire to try to move storage uses out of the town center area, especially large buildings with boats, for example. So there are some existing properties that have these large storage buildings on there, and that was moved into the industrial zone to kind of help facilitate moving that. So there isn't any large scale storage use in that C3, and that C3 was designed mostly to fit Finlayson down at the bottom there. And that kind of interesting kind of mixed character area down there, like where the red barn is, that type of thing. And then it's been added on a few parcels where there are existing businesses just to recognize them. And so what the OCP does is it allows them to change over time, right? So without making it difficult for them to continue their business by making them non-conforming and changing their zone completely, so it's something totally different. They would then need to apply to change their zone, to change to use that the OCP supports. And through that process, council will have the ability to negotiate for different things, if that makes sense. So like trying to juggle a few balls,
Yeah.
right? Like supporting existing businesses by recognizing some of the uses, except where there's political will to like be like, nope, we absolutely don't want that there. We're going to make that non-conforming. And that's a decision for council. But my question to you then is that, are you on board with making sure that those large storage type facilities are not in a C3 type zone?
Well, we
To try to promote them to move.
yeah, through the chair, on the map, we've got Papa's, for instance, is identified as C3, but the, is it Lakeside? Is that River Warren's name? It isn't. And like I say, I guess personally, I have an issue with having industrial down in the town center. Like we've got a lot of historic storage and ballet and whatever down there, which I thought was fairly consistent with what we had put into the OCP. I didn't realize we were moving away from that.
Yeah, you gotta remember, this town was built on marinas and the whole Riverside was, when we had 11 or 12 houseboat companies here. And everybody was building boats and crossing Riverside and doing odds and ends and you don't want that to go disappear. I know they're leaving, they're moving out of the channel. It's happened, already happened. But yeah, it's nice to have people like all those people that live down there all have boats and they all need a place to store them and they all need. So yeah, so it's not really industrial, but.
No, I thought that was all consistent with C3.
Yeah, and that's the way I understood it, is that having the boat storage and having the possibility of having a retail store that was that worked with boat storage and marine, fishing tackle, that kind of thing, those kind of possibilities, so that because you're right, it's that area is, it has to do with marine and it's part of the history and everything. And when you see storage buildings go up and then where you just see a chain link fence, but not the little storefront in front. Like the idea was you'd have the storefront in front, you'd have the storage in the back,
Possibly not looking at it.
possibly some residential above, have it stepping back from the road. That was a really kind of a great vision, and it was a mixed use situation, which we want. And yeah, it just doesn't, I think it's kind of ended up like that, but you can't always tell people exactly what they should do it. I just think, we get a lot of chain link fences and a lot of storage yards. And so that's kind of the way I saw it. The OCP was that was the vision. And but as far as the light industrial, I think there's a certain part of that for repairing boats and working on it and everything.
So the C3 through the chair does still allow for boat repair,
Yeah, and the
rentals. It doesn't allow for sales of larger boats, like smaller things like canoes or kayaks, that kind of thing is supported in C3. But we can certainly all look at it again in terms of some smaller scale marine storage in the back, right? So the idea is the industrial zone contains solely like big building storage parcels and they're unattractive. It's sort of, that's the idea, is that kind of thing goes there. But you're talking about added in the back.
Go ahead.
So I think what I understand, Deb, is that you'd like to see those industrial zone properties go to C3. They can continue the boat storage, but it would encourage other industrial uses not to locate there.
No, yeah, absolutely. I
Exactly.
like, I really,
Because when you look at the industrial, like, so we'll use Warren Jensen's property, it's owned industrial lot C3. So he's permitted to have
horrible.
containers stacked too high. Not exactly what we wanted to see on Riverside. So
Okay,
it's shipping containers. It's an allowed thing. Like, you know, we're sometimes we're just trying to be a little bit too liberal. If you look at the OCP, it was supposed to be a building that had storefront on it and storage in the back. And if we make it all C3, we don't want to end up like we currently have, which has been removed now, fuel pumps in our downtown core, right? That's been removed. Any other uses for nobody, but these are just things that we're trying to catch as we go through and relate it to the OCP. There's 3 of us here that were involved in the OCP. So we had a vision, we kind of have an idea of what that vision was supposed to be. It was voted on by the community and accepted by the community. And so it needs to be revisited again. But it'd be better if we make our zoning bylaws somewhat along the line of that OCP, and then when we revisit the OCP and rewrite it, then we have a bit of a flow to it. So one other comment is, I'm going to go back to the top of section 3. Because 3.3 accessory buildings, that includes structures, garages, carports, permanent structures where the roof is subject to the following regulations. So it permitted structures, it talks about a fence, retaining walls, trestles, temporary children's play equipment. Where does it actually get into what the building could or could not be? Because somewhere in residential, we need to distinguish that you're not allowed to have a farm quonset.
say that again, a farm.
Quonset, like a metal
Right.
farm building.
So that's regulated by the use in the zone. So this is, this part in 3.3, they're just general regulations that apply to any accessory building in any zone. But then the zone itself is going to regulate use, right?
Okay, so in the
I think we talked
residential,
about this last time, like it's not a form and character area. So unless they're forthright with how they're using a building, we can't necessarily prevent them from doing it in a residential, like a low density residential zone. We can keep the height low, which it is currently, so that, or make it lower than it is currently. It's 6 meters currently, and I think the zone 5 meters, is that right, Scott? For R1 and 2?
Yeah.
So we could set it so they'd have to come in every time for a variance.
and at that point,
And then there's the possibility to negotiate with them about how it looks, potentially.
yeah, because like I said, this thing, I mean, people are driving by it to have a look at it. And then you get a phone call, like, holy crap, the district actually allowed this. Like, I have one of them exactly the same on my property, and I'm a farm with 25 acres. And this is put in a guy's backyard for his motorhome, where if you're any of the neighbors there, like, I'd go out and commit suicide. Like, it's just, you just ruined my backyard, basically. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there, the size of it isn't allowed and the height of it's not allowed. I'm just saying the appearance of it. So is there no way in our bylaws in a residential property that we can't put in no agricultural style storage buildings allowed in residential areas?
So maybe to answer the question, I mean, I can picture someone, oh, I'd like my garage to look like a little red barn. And it might look wonderful,
Yeah,
but sorry, you can't look like an agriculture building. I think that'd be difficult, but I'll look and see what we can do. Like you say Quonset and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about, right?
Definitions.
Yeah,
But it starts to broach on form and character, like it might need to be thrown to a legal review.
but I think if we looked at it you can regulate pitch of roof, right? So if we look at it like we're regulating the pitch of the roof, where it can't be a circle, like I think.
His is, so you have to realize on that metal building, you can get what I have, which comes like this, that has straight vertical walls.
Yeah.
His has a wall that's slightly sloped and comes in some more, then a rounded roof on it. So it's not completely a rounded roof. So the definition of a Quonset is, I mean, I think that staff should have a little drive-by.
But we've been,
Now that it's finished, you drove by?
Not since it's been finished, but
Well, you go look at it. I mean, he's got the big farm sliding door that you would drive your tractor in, and it's beautiful on a farm. But sorry, and I mean, it was permitted use, but somehow or another, it's kind of like the trailer on steroids on Oak and the little one with the yellow door down here. Those are the things that if you're gonna build out, because we have some pockets and holes in town. And now you got one guy that put that in, the next thing you know, so you get one guy that put in the toy storage here at the end of Main Street, then you get it out at it's kind of the industrial by the track, which is fine. And the next thing you know, you got the 700 square foot with 7 park your bus underneath off of Riverside with a storefront on it, which is, I'm fine with that. But once one starts, it seems to be you get a following of 3 or 4 after it. So if you want to see these Quonsets all over town in everybody's backyard, we have to address them now, because I've been in the back of Hans's yard, who's the neighbor out the back, and that's not a nice yard to sit in the backyard now at all.
I think we can make it some attempts to address it. Like I think Sarah and I can figure it out.
I'm gonna let Malcolm go first. Got the sheepish grin on his face.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for recognizing the galley. Yeah, I'm just speaking as a local landowner on Capel. So the current, is that light general down there at Lakeside or light industrial? Or is it, what I can't tell by the key. It's either general industrial or light industrial where currently Lakeside storage is.
so the new name would be general industrial, but it is the light industrial.
Right, so when you look at the definition
Uses.
under light industrial, you have.
Go to the agenda
Production here.
and open up
You
the,
have auto body shop, including a paint shop there. You have, heavy commercial mechanical services there, or industrial mechanical services there. You could have a truck terminal there where you drop off trucks and without trucks there. It's all included in that definition.
Yeah.
And the current landowner, not a good, in my opinion, corporate citizen. So, I mean, as a local landowner there, I would like to see that C3. I don't think that's appropriate location for industrial.
Schedule A to D.
And I think if it was forward that way, the council will probably see a petition against it.
So my question would be is that, what is the process if your current zoning has it isolated as something different than the rest of
It
the?
has, yeah, so it currently has an industrial type zone on there. I think it's a comprehensive development zone it's industrial. It doesn't sound like a big stretch to try to put it in C3. We also might look at doing like a site specific zone, right?
Well, isn't C3,
C3.
isn't C3 that entire zone along Riverside there?
No, there's some odd parcels that are to recognize the existing kind of marine-based businesses there that aren't 100% storage, right? So the purple ones, those are like 100% storage right now. And the others, they're not, as far as I'm aware. And then everything else is down at the end of Finlayson for C3. Down in there. So we would just look at it and add storage, but with some general regulations for use.
So, but C3 includes storage, right?
I don't think, just let me look at it. Got it.
I thought,
I guess it, like, maybe for this purpose, it's more of a discussion and consensus than a recommendation and voting.
That's all we're talking about.
Yeah.
So how about, like, I think it seems to me the consensus of the group and perhaps Councillor McKayev is to rezone those in general industrials to C3 and just be done with it right there. Any future changes, they'd have to come back to council for a rezoning.
Yeah, because like I said, he can buy and stack containers on too high. So he could bring trucks in, unload two containers, stack them, become a drop off and shipping port. The only thing is that within the district of Sicamous, we have a weight restriction. But that's unless you're making a delivery, which if you were dropping off a container and loading down another one, that's what you would be doing. So go ahead, Sarah.
So the C3 zone allows specifically marine storage. That current general industrial zone on there allows like a broad range of storage. So I understand why you want to remove it. So specifically marine storage, there currently aren't any conditions of use in the zone that say that that marine storage needs to be at the back, behind a frontage. So we can refine that so that it's.
that was the OCP though.
That was the intent, so that
Yes.
Mhm.
that's the east side of Riverside would have some sort of character and then, but because they're such long parcels, it makes sense for marine storage a lot, like back there. And the other thing was tiered back so that we didn't have this wall of storage right at Riverside. So, and stepping back is, is a good way to sort of soften the blow of large buildings.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it, but.
So what were you suggesting, Sarah, to add to the C3? Like if it's marine storage, they can do marine repair, they can do this. We
Marine storage has been split out, just that there's some very clear, so you can kind of control where things like repair or boat building occurs. So those have been separated out as uses. So you can specifically decide which zones they should be in.
what just for clear, what page of the document are you on?
95.
5. I knew I looked at it, just made me going through.
So what I'm talking about is adding under the regulations and conditions of use, which is the last part of each zone, adding some regulations for marine storage, something very simple that just says that it needs to be in the back behind a principal building. So if you want it to be an accessory use, it could also be moved into accessory, but I think a lot of the current C3s are principally marine storage, like the one down on, what's that lane off of Finlayson? You guys know where I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of that lane.
Yeah.
Young. I think there's some big marine storage buildings back there that are that's all the site's used for.
Yeah, it's a better use, and I might suggest on the permitted uses, C3 waterfront commercial, we might want to stricken casino. Stricken casino,
Oh, yes, get
big
Flint.
casino out of there.
We're happy to hear that. We've been waiting for someone to comment on that.
Yeah, just going,
You don't want to see,
That's
where?
okay,
You'd like to see casino removed from,
C3,
C3 waterfront commercial.
it might be in some of the other zones. So it is in C2, highway commercial. And it is in town center, local commercial as well.
so in the previous version of this bylaw, we had 57 zones, and I think we had 3 or 4 different types of casinos.
Mhm.
We just narrowed it down to casino. I think, a small, when you're driving through Salmon Arm, there's that little casino, or any kind of tourist accommodation where they want to have a little area, I see that as being an incentive for a hotel to build here, but if it's
not-
something you want to see.
I don't think with the boat storage, a casino there, if you want a casino in the gateway, like if these guys at 530 Main wanted to build a hotel with a casino downstairs, fill your boots. Like, who cares? Okay.
But that's a good point. If there was if somebody did want to put a hotel along Riverside there and they wanted to put a small casino in there.
I think the chances of somebody wanting to build a hotel on the east side of Riverside is nil to slim because the other side's got a different zone. Right?
I'll rip up that.
Yeah, no, I kind of,
It's a good point. If you take it out, it's out.
I kind of agree with Scott, and especially if you look at the Three Boys property, like it, it's still it's still doable.
That's on the other side.
But still, it's C3. It's also, if you take it out of C3,
Go ahead through the chair, sir.
So my question to you then would be, should a casino be a permitted use as an accessory to a tourist accommodation? Because we could add it to the
Yeah,
4 on the other side as an accessory use to try to keep it small.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's,
So would you
you don't
not,
want it on that side, you want it on the other side.
okay, so would you not want it then in your C1 and C2, or is it fine in C2 where it's a principal use, kind of like the one in Salmon Arm? And would you not want it in C1 because you want smaller businesses there?
That's correct.
Okay,
see,
Say that again.
See,
yeah,
so remove casino from C1 town center. Because the idea is to try to promote smaller parcels, smaller businesses. Leave it in C2 because the idea is to
I would,
allow for parcel consolidation and larger parcels, larger uses. So you could see something potentially like the casino in Salmon Arm and the highway commercial zone on the Trans-Canada. Remove it from C3, move it to C4, which is our tourist resort zone,
Mhm.
as an accessory to a tourist accommodation. What else does that zone allow? It allows cabaret, nightclub, eating establishments. These are all accessory uses. That's probably fine. It already has casino in it as an accessory use in C4, so we don't have to do anything.
If it's a,
but it shouldn't be in C3.
so if it's an accessory use, then it has to. If somebody put in a development permit, they'd have to bring that to the council and say we want. But if it's a principal use, they're just allowed to go fill their boots, right?
No, they'd still need development permits, right? And something like a casino, because of licensing, there's a referral, is there not, for a casino?
So the question, I think Brian's question was, if it's an accessory use, does council need to approve the use?
So if it's
And
bad,
it's
No.
not, if the use is permitted, then there's no real approval of use. You're only approving kind of the form, character,
okay.
safety, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about for
That answers
530.
my question, yeah.
but is,
Permitted use, so if you don't want it permitted, you need to take it out now before we put the rubber stamp on this. And I mean, like you said, it's just comments. It's still got to go to the public. It's still got to go for review. I think that you've had your comments back for the most part, right, Scott?
We're still working through some of the comments. We're still accepting them and making changes. I think this big push was getting it in a certain format and kind of responding to some of the referrals, but yeah, we're still definitely making changes. I'd recommend we have all kind of, the red lines in this document, and then we'll maybe go and make some amendments and redline those, like whatever's in it now, we'll maybe accept it as being the way it is, but what we're talking about today, we'll create another document with more red lines in it, and you can see the changes as it progresses, so.
yeah, I think it's coming along really well. It's a big document and, but you really, consolidated it and it looks good. It's coming along really good. I think so. And, we keep picking away at it. Maybe once we get it refined a little bit more, you want to have a full-on zoning, just worry about the zoning but yeah, I think it's coming along really well.
All that's happening with us is that you know, it comes on the agenda, we're having a look at it, but then as the more developments that we got to review, you go, okay, well, we see this is a problem. So let's put it here. Let's do that. I mean, we're only making suggestions. I mean, it's the same as that Quonset on a residential property. We had this discussion once before. You weren't sure how you could do it. I don't want to see the height or the width of the area of it change. I just want to see the form and character of it change. And we don't actually have anything that states that, and you're suggesting we don't. So staff to come back with what they think is the way to do it. Like, you know, Brian's got a piece of property and he built a building on it. He didn't put a Quonset on it. And he's got two of them actually. One he's turned into his residence and the other one he's got his storage. But it's a vertical walled cement or looks like a reasonable building. And that's all we're asking for is if you're gonna put some, you could have put a metal sided reasonable building on there, right? Like he's got no insulation value in that structure, same as they don't offer an insulation value to it or nothing. So when I priced out the vertical wall one with steel studs and frame, it wasn't actually that much difference in price. So that's all I'm trying to suggest is that I don't know, galvanized ribbed building, no, in a residential. So
I've played hockey in some of those buildings and.
yeah, they're great.
Inside, and it is outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, is there any other comments to do with the zoning bylaws?
Just, I put it in there, but why did grocery store get taken out of town center?
We didn't want it, sorry, through the chair. We didn't want to limit where a grocery store could be. So we made it really clear that it's a retail store. So everywhere there's a retail store, you can have a grocery store. Because that's an.
Okay. Yeah, because I looked at shopping center and it wasn't there. I guess, yeah, I'll take a look at the retail. Got it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just when you were talking about that barn or that Quonset thing, and we kind of had the same problem with Trevor, who was going to put one here on, you know, it looked like a industrial farm building, which looks good on Jeff's property.
Yeah.
Maybe no grain bins in residential. I don't know what the word is, but I mean, yeah, that one's pretty ugly and it's pretty shiny too when the sun's shining on it. But anyways, there you go.
We'll leave it with staff. I'm not familiar enough with how you can restrict that form and character if there is no method in our current. I mean, let's step outside of the box and create it ourselves. It's the worst thing they can do. We can get sued. So.
We get challenged.
Yeah.
Any other comments? The galley got any comments?
Thank you for listening.
Okay. Well, having said that, I'd like to adjourn. Recommendation that the Planning Development Committee meeting for October 27th of 2021 be adjourned at time being 2:03. We are adjourned. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
So if we want to meet at